Hi there, this is McRae, and I want to tell you why experience allows you to think 3, 4, 5 steps ahead of everybody else, which is one of the reasons why I'm a great believer in mentors, because they have the experience and young entrepreneurs don't. So two things have helped me a lot in my business career, and one is thinking in terms of processes and procedures. So as a young man, one of my early careers was in the casino industry. And it's a very process and procedure orientated industry. So in those days, if you were dealing on a roulette table, you would have to, if they call it cleaning the table, if you took all of the chips off the table, when you started, you showed you had clean hands, you held your hands at an angle that you knew the camera could see, you weren't hiding anything, you'd take the chips in, there was a certain way that you had to count the chips, and everything that you did there had a procedure. You weren't allowed cuffs on your shirts, you didn't have turn-ups on your trousers, there was rules. And then at the end of each night, they had a thing called the count. So the count was when they took all of the cash from the casinos, and I know most casinos nowadays don't have very much cash. It's all done by credit cards. But in those days, you would dump all the cash onto the table, and then it first of all had to be sorted into denominations. And then not only had it to be sorted into denominations, it had to be sorted into certain amounts. And even there was a procedure for when you put a paper clip on. The J had to be in a certain part because the bank only accepted the money if it was presented to them in a certain way. It was very procedure orientated. So one thing that has helped me through every single business I've owned is the first thing that comes to my head is, where is the process and procedure here? How can I improve this engine? So often when I'm looking at businesses to buy, I'll see that there is very little or no process involved with their business. And that's an opportunity for me to bring value. Now, because I've owned so many different businesses in different countries, it gives me lots of different data points. So it's not that I'm a genius when I come up with different ideas of how to improve businesses. Often it's the fact that I know and understand how a business works. So for example, I might see the same pattern again and again and again. Someone might say, why don't we reduce the headcount of this organization by doing this? But I have the experience of knowing that it's not that simple. Sometimes you take away something and you've got second and third order consequences down the road that you never thought of. Sometimes I will work with people and they might say, I would like to try this. And I'm thinking, okay, that's fine, but how does that affect the next week, month, or year? So it's the experience of knowing when you do things to a business, how it affects the rest of the business. And that allows you to think 2 or 3 steps ahead. So, I've always had mentors, all right? Not so much now over the last few years. I'm finding it harder and harder to find the people that not that I can't learn, but I'm just not in their world anymore. So, but when I was younger, I was always looking for somebody to help me. Where is the leverage here? So, I remember 20 years ago paying someone $1,000 to be on a telephone with me for an hour. And I would pick that person's brain. It was somebody that I admired. He had more knowledge than I did. And I saw that as a leverage point to getting to where I wanted to go quicker and faster. So, and you'll find that with most mentors, unless they're growing, and that's very important that they are in the growth stage, that you will outgrow them. It's kind of like, I think of it as like a health magazine. I used to subscribe to a health magazine and it would teach you how, curl the bicep or, do a squat. But how many ways can you tell somebody to curl a barbell? After a year of subscribing to that magazine, you kind of know what's coming. And you'll find that with mentors. But what it does allow you to do is to get the experience from them that can save you a lot of time. So, think of everything that you do inside business as very repetitive, as forming habits, as that process of process and procedures that allows you to grow businesses and scale businesses. So experience allows you to think ahead. It's a shortcut. And how can you get experience? Well, one way is to do it like I did, the hard way, just make a lot of mistakes. So, I'm very cautious of things going forward. I'm risk averse now because I've made so many mistakes, but I've helped a lot of young entrepreneurs not make those mistakes and shorten their learning period. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that in order to be good at business, you need experience. And there's only two ways to get that I can think of. Make the mistakes and do it through the School of Hard Knocks, or find people that you can work with or have the knowledge that you have that can give you their experience. Thanks for listening. If you liked what I had to say today, leave a comment, leave a like. I'd appreciate it. Thank you.